Hello and welcome to Fast Horses Today. Today is Sunday. It is June 15th and it's also Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Hope you're doing something special today. And I'm going to guess probably a lot of fathers are going to be going to the racetrack. So enjoy the time there wherever you may be going. And let's get some winners today for Father's Day. And it's also closing day at the Santa Anita meet. So let's close out this day in style for Father's Day and closing day. Let's get started here at Santa Anita. We're going to go to the first race. I do have a couple win bets today and also a late pick 5. So we're going to get started here in the first race. Now the first race does have an approximate post time about 12:30 Pacific, so 2:30 here in the Central Time Zone. And we're starting out with a maiden special weight, a mile on the grass. And these are open company horses, 3-year-olds and up. And as I mentioned, I do have a win bet here. I'm going to go with the 7, Mutaz, for Bob Baffert and Juan Hernandez. This horse is 5-2 in the program. And Mutaz, a 3-year-old colt by Nyquist out of the mare Acoma, which I know Acoma was a nice runner back in her time. This horse has had 2 starts, and I've really liked the film on this horse. And I think last time I had given this horse out, we got beat on the wire. It was kind of a tough beat. But this horse started out his career. He ended up getting beat by Day and Age, which, I really liked Day and Age a couple days ago. And that horse got it done for us very nicely from the Richard Mandela barn. That was the first time out for Mutaz. I thought Mutaz ran a nice race, kind of pressing Day and Age, and then just, went backwards, towards the end, needed the race. So follow that up with a 1.125 race, where it looked like this horse, would get the lead and did, and, almost held on at a 1.125 and ran a really nice race, I thought. This horse certainly has a very nice stride. I don't know if Hernandez will put this horse on the lead and try to go the mile distance or maybe stalk. I'm not sure, but I do think this horse has more improvement to give, in his third start. So I'm going to make a win bet on Mutaz. I'm going to guess, 5-2 will probably get about that because there are some horses in this race that are short prices in the program. We're going to go against the favorite, who is the 4-horse Cuban Confusion. So that horse probably will be the favorite. So we'll make a win bet on the 7 in the first race, Mutaz. All right, now let's move over to the 8th race of the day. We're going to skip over the next several. The 8th race does start the late pick 5. This has an approximate post time about 4:08 Pacific, so 6:08 here in the Central Time Zone. And these are 2-year-olds. These are babies, Calbreds. They're running 5 furlongs on the dirt. And these are boys. So, I really haven't dove into the 2-year-old scene yet there in California. They've been carding several of those races over the last couple weeks, but I just really haven't jumped in here. But since it's the first leg of the late pick 5, we're going to have to here. So I'm going to put 3 horses here in this race to get this pick 5 started. We're going to go with the 2-horse, No Joke and Taurus, for Sean McCarthy and Tyler Bass. I think these guys are pairing up for a couple live ones today. No Joke and Taurus is by Practical Joke. We've seen Practical Jokes do pretty well there in the California bred ranks there in the special weights and early on in their careers. This horse certainly has some nice works. I like the last work, the 47 and change at the gate, 4 furlong race, 4 furlong workout. Tyler Bass certainly knows how to get a horse out from the 2-hole, see if he can get the lead and take him the distance. Going to also put the 8-horse, being Arkadelphia, for Louis Mendez. And Edwin Maldonado takes the call here. Now, this horse does have a start. They took this horse over to Gulfstream and put this horse in the Royal Palm Juvenile, which is a 5-furlong turf race, $100,000 race. And I know the winner of that race gets a all expenses paid to the Royal Ascot meet for one of their 2-year-old races. So that's a very important race that, the connections there do really point towards. So Louis Mendez sent the horse out there and... the horse had been training in Florida. So, training in Florida, went there, ran, I thought, a respectable race, coming third in the 5-furlong grass race. I mean, those are really fast races. They come up fast on those 5-furlong turf races there in Gulfstream. I thought this horse ran respectably. Certainly Maldonado, we know, what he's really good at, getting a horse out of the gate, getting great position. So, Louis Mendez teaming up with Maldonado in a 2-year-old race, I think it's a good spot there. At 6-1, we'll put Arkadelphia. And then finally, going to put the 10-horse, who is Hero or Zero, for Doug O'Neill. And this horse by Pavel out of a Square Eddie mare, and that tells you that this is Redham racing all over there, between the sire and the broodmare. That's, all homebreds there for this outfit. So Rispoli takes the call. This horse certainly had some nice works. A couple 47s, one from the gate. Looks to be ready to run. 3-1 in the program from the 10 hole. I like that 10 hole trip. That'll get this horse out there going, and if he's good enough, should finish up nicely. So we've got to start out this pick 5 in the 8th race. We've got the 2, 8, and 10. Now let's go to the next race. The 9th race is the San Juan Capistrano. It's a grade 3 nowadays, and they're running down the hill and going 1.75 miles on the turf. So always a historic race there at Santa Anita, and always ends up being, the meet capper there, the last race of their meet, ends up being the San Juan Capistrano. Today it ends up being in the 9th race. Now this field is scratched down to a field of 6. A couple scratches here in this race. The 6 and the 2 are both scratched. The 6, she ran yesterday, Mrs. Astor, and won her race yesterday, so she's not running today. This leaves 2 horses here in this race, in this San Juan Capistrano. I'm going to put the 7, who is Divine Propos, for Phil D'Amato, and Ricardo Gonzalez gets the call here. Ricardo Gonzalez, good for him. I know he doesn't always ride the first calls for the D'Amato barn, but since this horse has been entered, Rispoli did have the favorite originally, so Rispoli wouldn't get the call here, and now Gonzalez gets the call, so it's lucky for him. He gets a chance to win a graded stakes race for the Phil D'Amato barn. So Divine Propos, 3-1 in the program, probably not going to be the case since the scratches are there. This horse certainly likes to run, on the turf. Looks like long distance is what he likes to do. He hasn't run 1.75 miles, but, who does nowadays, and, who's truly bred for it. But, he's shown nice races at 1.5 miles, at 1 3/8, and 1.25 miles. So we'll see it. It looks like Gonzalez will have to maybe wait a little longer before pressing the button on this one, and maybe Divine Propos will get it done. And then I'm going to put the 8 horse, who is Balladeer. Balladeer out of the George Papapadromo barn, Kent DeSormo on the horse. Now, Balladeer has certainly been a horse that's very well known to Southern California players. He's been running on the circuit for many years now, and he just knows one way: get out to the front and go. Take him as long as you can take him. I love this horse. He's by Distorted Humor, and always have a affinity for the Distorted Humor offspring. 6-1 here. There's not a lot of speed in this race. We'll see if Kent DeSormo tries and steals the race here. So we've got the 7 and the 8 in the San Juan Capistrano. Now let's move over to the 10th race of the day. 10th race is 1 mile on the dirt. It is a first level allowance race here. These are 3-year-olds and up boys. And, we've got some nice horses here, some nice purchase prices, some horses that may end up becoming, stakes performers. I think it just kind of boils down to the 2 John Sadler horses here. I'm going to go with the 2 Pony Express. Rispoli takes the call here. This horse has run his best races at Santa Anita, going 2 turns, so I think this horse could be dangerous here at 4-1, could take the lead and maybe take him to distance. And then I'm going to also take the comebacker here for the John Sadler barn, Indispensable. This horse has run in some nice races, spent the fall running in some stakes races, ended up going in the Oklahoma Derby, hitting the board there, running 3rd, and then also in the Zia Park Derby, which he ended up coming 2nd. So he's been on the shelf for a bit. This horse shows nice works, and I just feel like the way this race sets up that one of the 2 John Sadler horses will get it done here, being the 2 and the 7. All right, now let's move over to the next race of the day. Next race is the 11th race. This is running down the hill, so this will be the last time we see horses running down the hill for this meet. An open allowance race, first level allowance, open company, and I do feel like it's an open race here. So I'm going to put several horses in. I think several of these do have a good chance here. I'm going to put the 2 Daniel's Magic for Owen Hardy. This horse gets in because they're putting him in for the 50,000 claim. Not too worried about that. I mean, this horse has certainly done a good job in his career, and Owen Hardy getting realistic here. It's a matter of where you're going to run him. So I think a 7-year-old gelding, if somebody would want to take the horse, God bless him. That's probably why this horse is here. Kyle Frey takes the call, 5-1. The horse has certainly run well down the hill in his career, and merits a shot here. Going to put the 4 horse, who is Miss Joe's Curlin, for Brendan Galvin and Juan Hernandez. Now, this horse has a distinction of being 2 of Brendan Galvin's 3 wins this year. So, certainly things have worked out with this horse, but, Galvin probably needs to win some more races and get his record a little bit better and more respectable. This horse does show speed, and Juan Hernandez on the horse. He's won with this horse both times he's ridden, so certainly has the keys here. This horse could take the lead and maybe steal it here at 8-1, so we'll put the 4 Miss Joe's Curlin. I'll put the 5 horse Beef Winslow for Mark Glatt, Abel Lascano on the horse. This probably would be your favorite of the day or in this race. This horse is 5-2 in the program. It comes off a couple nice runs, and should be a factor here. Then I'm going to also put the 6 horse who's out of the Mark Glatt barn. Now, interestingly enough, Glatt puts this horse in for a 50,000 tag when he probably could have just put him in for the allowance. So I don't know, maybe just a little strategy here. Money Makes Money has, run his last race back in mid-May, which is about a month ago from now. And I think that it just looked like that horse probably needed a race. Even though he had run once this year back in February, but looked to me like made a nice move, but just probably looked like he needed a race. Maybe he'll improve, off this one. Kimura takes the call, which is always a good thing. 6-1 in the program, so we'll put Money Makes Money. And then finally, I'll put the 10 horse, who is Bad Uncle Barry. So this is also for Mark Glatt. So Mark Glatt, filled this race here. They got to thank him for helping fill this race. This horse is 8-1 in the program. Umberto Rispoli takes the call. This horse comes off a bit of a layoff. We haven't seen this horse since the Del Mar Summer Meet. So, I'm kind of wondering, again, Mark Glatt puts this horse in for 50,000 when he probably could have, he could have put this horse in for the allowance conditions. So, again, I think it's maybe a case where trainers are saying, if you want to take these horses, go ahead, and then you'll, sit on the horse for about a month or so until Del Mar opens. So, we'll see. Bad Uncle Barry could do well off the bench here. He's shows a win at Santa Anita on the grass at 6.5 on the flat. This is certainly different down the hill, but at 8-1, we'll take a shot here. So I've got the 2, 4, 5, 6, and 10. All right, now let's go to the last race of the day. Last race of the day being the 12th race in this marathon card. The last race has an approximate post time of 6:08 Pacific, so that's 8:08 here in the evening in the Central Time Zone. This is a 6 furlong grass race, flat grass. Maiden special weights, they're Calbreds. These are fillies, 3-year-olds and up. And I've got 3 horses here to try to cap off this pick 5, and I also have a win bet here in this race. So I'm going to go with the 7, who is Godavari. Godavari for the Dan Blacker barn, and Antonio Fraser takes the call again. Fraser was on this horse last time. This horse had come off a significant layoff, about 10-month layoff, and ended up running a nice race. Came second as the favorite. Wind speed came and got him at the end. So I think the horse ran a nice race. Probably should improve off that. Had a nice speed figure. 8-5 in the program, so no secret here. But we'll put this horse in the pick 5 here. Then I'm going to also go with the 9 horse, who is Say Bella, for Sean McCarthy and Tyler Bays. As I mentioned, they got a couple today. They could be live. Now, Say Bella, I'm going to put this horse in, as well as I'm going to make a win bet on Say Bella, the 9 horse here. She's run 3 times at the Santa Anita meet, all on the grass. She's run some nice grass races. In her first out, she came second, ended up running a very nice race there, got beat by Lava Lucy, who was nice that day. Came out her next time. She ended up being a favorite that day, got beat by Tight Squeeze. And we saw Tight Squeeze ended up winning a few days ago in a pretty nice race. So Tight Squeeze is a serious racehorse. Say Bella ended up coming 3rd that day. And, she had a little bit of trouble. I wouldn't say that cost her a race, but, a little bit of trouble, but still ran on nicely. They ended up putting her in a mile in her most recent race back in late April. She ran a decent race, but, I don't know that she wanted to go a mile. So, she shortens back up to a sprint at 6 furlongs. I think this would be her best, her best distance would be sprinting. She's 10-1 today, and I'm going to put her in the pick 5, as well as I'm going to make a win bet on Say Bella. And then finally, I will put in the 13. 13 being Tiger Fire for Brian Corner, and Ayuso takes the call here. Now, she does draw in. She's 4-1 today. And, in her first start out, she ended up running on the dirt and ran a nice race. Got out and showed some high speed and ended up running with a horse named Hurricane Layla, who ran pretty well that day in her first start. And, it was a nice race first out. They're changing the surface now. She's going to be running on the turf. So, we'll see. That's a question mark. But, the Smiling Tigers offspring do well on the turf, so certainly shouldn't be a problem for Tiger Fire. So we'll put the 13 in at 4-1. All right, now let's recap the day and recap the bets. Okay, so for Father's Day, June 15th, we've got a couple win bets, as well as we've got a late pick 5. So first in the win bet category, we've got a win bet in the first race on the 7, Mutaz. Now let's go over to the 8th race, where we're starting out this pick 5. 8th race, we're starting out pick 5 with the 2-8-10, with the 7-8, with the 2-7, with the 2, 4, 5, 6, 10 with the 7, 9, and 13. Now that pick 5 today does cost $90. And then in the last race, I do have a win bet on the 12. In the 12th race on the 9, say Bella. So if you decide to make the win bets, good luck. If you want to play the pick 5 as is, be my guest. Good luck to you if you want to add or subtract or make the bets within it. Whatever you decide to do, I wish you the best of luck. Let's wish the folks over at Santa Anita a very safe day of racing here on Father's Day. Let's wish ourselves some good trips and get some nice results. So as always, I do appreciate you watching. I appreciate everyone who's subscribed. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost anything. It's free and it just serves up the content to you. You could like, dislike, make comments. I promise to respond to everybody. Let's make it a great day for Father's Day and let's close out the meet at the Great Race Place at Santa Anita. Thank you so much for watching.